In June 2020, 9-year-old Emma Rodriguez vanished from her bedroom in the quiet suburb of Riverside Heights, California. Her parents found her window open, her bed empty, and no sign of where she had gone. Despite an extensive search involving hundreds of volunteers, FBI agents, and K-9 units, no trace of Emma was ever found. The case became one of California's most heartbreaking mysteries, destroying her family and haunting the community. For 4 years, Emma's disappearance remained unsolved. Then, in August 2024, when contractors began renovating the basement of a house in the small town of Millbrook, 45 miles north of Riverside Heights, they discovered something hidden behind a false wall in the old storm shelter. What they found would expose a betrayal so shocking it would shatter everything the Rodriguez family believed about trust and friendship. Detective Lisa Martinez had been working missing children cases for the Riverside Police Department for 12 years, but the Emma Rodriguez file was different. It wasn't just another case, it was the nightmare that kept her awake at night, the face that haunted her dreams, the failure that made her question everything she thought she knew about protecting children. Lisa had a daughter the same age as Emma. Sophia was 9 when Emma disappeared, with the same dark curls and bright smile. Every time Lisa looked at the missing child posters that still hung around town, she saw her own daughter's face staring back at her. The night Emma vanished, Lisa had been the first detective on scene. She remembered walking into that bedroom at 3:47 a.m., seeing the open window, the rumpled bedsheets, the small pink slippers left beside the bed. She remembered Emma's mother, Carmen, sobbing in the hallway while her father, Miguel, stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the empty bed as if he could will his daughter to reappear. "She never opens that window," Carmen had told Lisa through her tears. "Emma's afraid of bugs getting in. She would never open it herself." The investigation had been thorough, but ultimately fruitless. The open window showed no signs of forced entry, no fingerprints except Emma's family's, no footprints in the flower bed below. Security cameras from neighboring houses showed nothing unusual. It was as if Emma had simply vanished into thin air. For 4 years, Lisa had followed every lead, interviewed every registered sex offender in a 50-mile radius, chased down every tip that came through the hotline. She'd personally reviewed the case file hundreds of times, searching for something, anything, that the original investigation might have missed. The most frustrating part was that the case had no clear suspects. The Rodriguez family had been pillars of their community. Miguel worked as a high school math teacher. Carmen was a nurse at the local hospital. They had no enemies, no financial problems, no custody disputes. Emma was a happy, well-adjusted child who had never shown any signs of wanting to run away. The only potential lead had been David Henley, Emma's piano teacher, but he had a solid alibi for the night of her disappearance and had even helped organize search parties in the days that followed. Lisa had interviewed him twice and found nothing suspicious about his demeanor or responses. When the call came in about the discovery in Millbrook, Lisa almost didn't respond. Millbrook was outside her jurisdiction, 45 miles north of Riverside Heights, but something about the description made her request permission to assist with the investigation. The renovation contractor's call that Tuesday morning in August had been forwarded to Lisa through interdepartmental channels. "We found something really disturbing," Tom Bradley had told the Millbrook police, who had then contacted surrounding agencies for assistance. "We're renovating the basement at 728 Cedar Street, and we found a hidden room behind the water heater. There's children's belongings in there, and it looks like someone was being held prisoner." Lisa drove to Millbrook with her hands gripping the steering wheel, knowing it was a long shot, but unable to ignore the possibility that this discovery might be connected to Emma's case. The house at 728 Cedar Street was a modest 2-story home in an older residential neighborhood, the kind of place where neighbors kept to themselves and people could come and go without attracting attention. When Lisa arrived, she learned that the house had been purchased 6 months earlier by a young couple from San Francisco who were renovating it as a weekend retreat. The previous owner had been a man named David Henley, who had moved to Florida in early 2023. The name hit Lisa like lightning. David Henley, Emma's former piano teacher. "Detective Martinez, I know this is outside your jurisdiction," said Officer Janet Mills from the Millbrook Police Department. "But when we ran the previous owner's name through the system, we saw you'd interviewed him in connection with a missing child case." Lisa's heart was pounding as she followed Officer Mills into the basement of the house. The space was typical for homes built in the 1950s, concrete walls, low ceiling, and in one corner, what appeared to be an old Cold War-era storm shelter that had been converted into a utility room. "The hidden room is behind this false wall," Tom Bradley explained, pointing to an area where he had broken through what appeared to be part of the shelter's back wall. The entrance was completely concealed. You'd never know it existed unless you were specifically looking for it. Lisa pulled on latex gloves and crawled through the narrow opening Bradley had created. The space beyond was about 10 by 12 feet, soundproofed and climate-controlled. Someone had spent considerable money making sure this room was completely isolated from the rest of the house. The room was set up like a child's bedroom, but wrong in every detail. A single bed with cartoon character sheets, a shelf lined with toys that looked new but outdated, children's clothes hanging in a makeshift closet. But it was what Lisa found in a plastic storage container beside the bed that made her blood run cold. Inside were personal items that clearly belonged to specific children: hair accessories, small pieces of jewelry, toys. Based on the variety and styles, the items appeared to come from 7 different children over a period of several years. At the bottom of the container was a red hair ribbon that Lisa recognized immediately. Emma had been wearing that ribbon in her school picture from 3rd grade, the image that had been used on thousands of missing child posters. "Emma," Lisa whispered, holding the ribbon with trembling hands. After 4 years of searching, she was finally holding proof that Emma had been here in this hidden room 45 miles from her family's home. Hidden under the mattress, Lisa found a small spiral notebook filled with writing in multiple children's handwriting. The notebook contained entries from different children, creating a chronicle of David Henley's crimes over several years. The first entry Lisa read was in Emma's careful script. "Mr. David brought me here after he took me from my room. He said my parents were in danger and that he was keeping me safe, but I don't believe him anymore. This place is far from home, and I can hear highway traffic but no neighbors. I think I'm somewhere in the mountains." Lisa immediately called for FBI assistance, recognizing that the discovery of Emma's belongings in David Henley's hidden room transformed him from a cleared witness into the prime suspect in her disappearance. While waiting for federal agents to arrive, she continued examining the notebook and found entries from 7 different children spanning 6 years. The earliest entry was dated 2018. "My name is Kelly, and I'm 7. The piano man brought me to this scary place. He said my mommy and daddy had to go away, but that's a lie. I want to go home, but the door locks from outside and there are no windows." Other entries revealed the pattern of Henley's crimes. Day 12, there was another girl here before me. Found her clothes under the bed. They smell bad and have dark stains. Mr. David said she went to live with a new family, but I don't think that's true. Written by someone identified as Ashley, age 9. Emma's entries were extensive, documenting her month-long captivity. Day 18, I figured out where I am by listening to the highway sounds. Mr. David drives about an hour to get here from town. He has another house somewhere else where he teaches piano and acts normal. Nobody knows about this place. Day 25, Found pictures hidden in the closet. Mr. David has been doing this to kids for years. I counted 7 different kids, including me, from the things he keeps. I don't think most of them are alive anymore. Day 30. Mr. David is nervous about something. He keeps getting phone calls about transfer arrangements. I think he's planning to move me somewhere else. I'm going to hide this notebook so someone will find it if I disappear. When FBI agent Sarah Kim arrived, Lisa showed her the notebook and explained the connection to David Henley. Agent Kim's expression grew increasingly grim as she read the children's accounts. Detective Martinez, the fact that Henley moved away from this house shortly after your investigation suggests he may have been spooked by the attention, Agent Kim said. He probably thought this location was compromised. Which means Emma might still be alive if he transferred her somewhere else instead of killing her here, Lisa replied. Agent Kim nodded as she examined the personal items from the storage container. These appeared to be trophies from 7 victims. The notebook entries suggest most were killed here, but Emma's references to transfer arrangements indicate she may have been moved to another facility. The investigation revealed that David Henley had been using the Millbrook house as his primary base of operations while maintaining his public persona as a piano teacher in Riverside Heights and surrounding communities. The 45-mile distance had provided him with the isolation he needed while keeping him close enough to continue targeting children. Property records showed that Henley had owned the Millbrook house since 2017, purchasing it under his own name but never listing it as his primary residence. Neighbors confirmed that he visited regularly but kept to himself, coming and going at odd hours and never socializing with anyone in the area. The FBI investigation into David Henley's activities revealed that he had been extremely careful about avoiding detection while operating his hidden facility. Agent Kim's team discovered that Henley had deliberately kept minimal records of his crimes, understanding that documentation could be used as evidence against him. However, Henley had made one crucial mistake when he moved to Florida in 2023. Hidden in a concealed compartment behind the water heater, agents found a small fireproof safe that Henley had apparently forgotten or been unable to access during his hasty departure. Inside the safe were Polaroid photographs of 7 children, including Emma, taken during their captivity. The photos were labeled only with first names and dates, but provided crucial evidence linking Henley to the crimes. More importantly, Emma's photos were marked transferred July 2020, while the others were marked with dates that appeared to indicate when they were killed. Also in the safe was a handwritten ledger containing financial records for what Henley had labeled as special expenses. The entries showed payments for soundproofing materials, security equipment, and regular monthly payments to something called Sunrise Facility, beginning in July 2020. Agent Kim also found a burner phone that Henley had apparently forgotten to take with him. The phone contained text message conversations with someone identified only as coordinator discussing package transfers and facility placements. The messages were coded but clearly referred to moving children between different locations. Package 7, confirmed for transfer to Sunrise Facility, read one message from July 2020. Subject shows good compliance indicators. Recommend for long-term placement program. The digital evidence was limited but significant. Henley had been smart enough to avoid keeping extensive records, but had made critical errors during his relocation that provided investigators with the information they needed to locate Emma. Financial records from the safe showed that Henley had been making monthly payments of $2,500 to Sunrise Residential Services in Oregon since July 2020. The payments had continued until Henley's death in a car accident in 2022, suggesting that Emma was being held at a facility that required ongoing payment for her care. Agent Kim's investigation into Sunrise Residential Services revealed that the facility was operating under false credentials as a treatment center for troubled children, but was actually holding abducted children under false identities. The facility specialized in erasing children's memories and creating new identities that would prevent them from seeking help or trying to return to their families. The raid on Sunrise Residential Services took place on August 28, 2024, exactly 4 years and 2 months after Emma Rodriguez had vanished from her bedroom. FBI agents, working with Oregon Law Enforcement and Child Protective Services, found 4 children who had been reported missing from various states over the past 5 years. Agent Kim found Emma in a dormitory-style building at the facility, living under the name Sarah Mitchell. She was now 13 years old, heavily medicated, and had been told that her real parents had died in a car accident and that she was an orphan with severe psychological problems. The psychological manipulation had been systematic and devastating. Emma had been given drugs that affected her memory, subjected to repeated therapy sessions that implanted false memories of being abandoned, and kept isolated from any information that might contradict the lies she had been told. But when Agent Kim showed Emma a photograph of her parents and told her that her real name was Emma Rodriguez, something in the teenager's eyes sparked with recognition. Despite 4 years of psychological abuse and memory suppression, some part of Emma remembered her true identity. "I used to dream about people who looked like that," Emma whispered, staring at the photograph. "They felt like family, but the doctor said those were false memories from before my trauma. Are they real? Are they really my parents?" David Henley had died in a car accident in 2022, but the operators of Sunrise Residential Services were arrested and charged with kidnapping, child abuse, and conspiracy. The investigation revealed that the facility had been receiving abducted children from predators in multiple states for over a decade. Detective Lisa Martinez was present when Emma was reunited with her parents at a secure FBI facility in Sacramento. The reunion was both joyful and heartbreaking. Emma remembered her parents, but had been convinced for years that her memories were false, making the psychological recovery even more complex. "We knew you were alive," Carmen sobbed as she held her daughter. "We never stopped believing that someday you would come home." The hidden room in David Henley's Millbrook house had preserved evidence of crimes against 7 children over 6 years. While Emma had survived, 6 other families finally learned the truth about what had happened to their missing children. The personal items Henley had kept as trophies were returned to the families, providing closure even in the midst of unimaginable grief. Detective Lisa Martinez had finally solved the case that had haunted her for 4 years, learning that David Henley had been a careful, methodical predator who had managed to avoid detection for years by keeping minimal records and maintaining distance between his crimes and his public life. The case led to reforms in how missing children investigations were conducted across jurisdictional boundaries and highlighted the importance of never giving up hope, even when cases seemed impossible to solve. But for Lisa Martinez, the most important lesson was that even the most careful predators eventually made mistakes, and that the love of families who refused to stop searching could overcome even the most sophisticated attempts to hide the truth. Emma Rodriguez was alive because someone had refused to stop looking, and because the children who hadn't survived had found ways to document their experiences and leave clues for those who would eventually find them. Their courage had finally been rewarded with justice, and their voices had finally been heard. The betrayal had come from someone the community trusted, but the solution had come from the determination of investigators who refused to give up hope, even when that hope seemed impossible to maintain. Sometimes evil operated in careful shadows, but sometimes good prevailed through the simple refusal to accept that missing children were gone forever. Emma Rodriguez's story became a beacon of hope for families across the nation whose children had vanished without a trace, proving that even after years of silence, the truth could still emerge from the darkest places. If stories like Emma's, tales of conspiracy, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of justice captivate you as much as they do us, then you won't want to miss what we uncover next. Subscribe now to join our community of truth seekers who believe that every missing person deserves to be found, every family deserves answers, and every secret deserves to be exposed. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because next week we're diving into another case that will challenge everything you thought you knew about the people you trust most. Together, we'll keep searching for the truth, one story at a time, until every voice is heard and every mystery is solved.